having the information to help you, your staff, your students figure out, hey, this is working not just from a COVID numbers, CDC guidelines standpoint, tracking just the disease, but the students and
Mhm.
how they're doing with their social, environmental, emotional, and academic health.
Right.
So, how did you guys gather that information? Is that something you're still working through? And what do you have that you think is really beneficial that other school districts might benefit from?
Okay, there's a lot to share, so let me try to just
Okay.
condense it to the pieces that I think might be applicable across different school districts. What we wanted to do, because at the beginning of September, we thought we were going to eventually close. So our mindset was we have to build tiny little communities with the children in grades K through 8. So when we close, they have a unit. They have an operating unit of kids that they are connected to around an adult. We use the ruler approach out of Yale, and it has routines that you do every morning with the students to help build community in the classroom. For all of our students K-8, they have their pod or their unit that they're very connected to, that's led by a faculty member. In the elementary program, they're with that group at least every morning, and then they're with that faculty member at different portions throughout the day, but they spend a lot of time with them because they're like their leader, their advisor, their point person. At the middle level, this group is together in the morning with their faculty, I'm going to say advisor, and then they tail end the day with that person as well, because we do have some pod movement at the middle level. For example, we put two pods together in big spaces like the cafeteria and the auditorium for English and math instruction, because we thought that was important for us to do for a variety of reasons. So, in order to make sure we really supported kids the way that we felt like they needed to, and we could continue to monitor their social emotional state and growth, we very intentionally developed these pods and had time planned within the day to do some meaningful work around building community and addressing concerns not only associated with the pandemic, but about things that are happening globally in the world and then in our own country. So that was our thought process in supporting middle and elementary schools. In terms of the high school, one of the things that we did immediately in September is we felt like our guidance counselors had to have community circles with every member of that high school, of the high school. So our students were engaged in conversations with their guidance counselors about where they were and how they were feeling about being in school, and helping support them in their transition back to our to high school, to Greeley. And then in each, and in each level of the system, there's a different approach to help students who are struggling, which becomes more complicated, I think, as you get into the high school level, which is why initially I had started by explaining to you, while we had this 50-50% model, kids that we're concerned about, they just come every day for classes all day long. So we can give them the support that they need, and we have a process to identify who those students are, and they get services in a way that we feel best will help them be successful. So in terms of data that we watch, of course, it's our attendance data. We have a lot of systems in place through our response to intervention process to review and to discuss children that we're worried about, to ensure that our students are making progress at the rate that they continue to grow and develop. We use MAPS data. It's a third-party assessment system that many school districts across the country use. While we initially leveraged MAP in grades 3 through 8, we expanded that down to lower elementary levels because we thought it was important, given the pandemic, that we track their progress in that way. And we do analysis between our grading results pre-pandemic to post-pandemic, just to ensure that kids continue to remain on track. So we're looking at it at the macro level rather than just at the micro level with individual kids. So we do a lot of that work here in the district as a part of our pedagogical practices. And anyway, we're comparing different data now based on pre-closure and now reopening in this structure because of the pandemic.
Yeah, I was curious. I'm glad that we were able to have you on because this is a perspective that I have not heard yet. That's because most of the country knows New York has been consistently, at least at the start of the pandemic, and I would say for the first 8 to 10 months, a focal point of the entire nation as far as what was happening with COVID and numbers and schools. So it sounds like you guys have been flexible, incredible in making sure that you're still not at it doesn't appear anyway, I could be wrong. It really doesn't sound like it broke anywhere. It sounds like it was able to be very moldable, very flexible with trying to from what it sounds like to me, I'm sure it isn't any sort of normalcy, but it sounds to me like the district tried their very best to keep as much normalcy as possible with as much in-person instruction as humanly possible, which everybody prefers. And
Right.
it obviously has worked to a pretty good regard from the sound of it with what you guys have tracking wise and making sure that students aren't falling off, as
Mhm.
you mentioned, using the data that you guys have available to you and utilizing it in places where prior to the pandemic, perhaps you weren't using it because the need wasn't there, but now it is.